Brewers log, April 4th. Thought I would show you what I do during part of my nightly rounds. One, I get myself a nice glass of cider to start drinking. This has a little bit of carbonation. It is a brown sugar using QA23 yeast and a member mark juice. It doesn't have quite the bite that the treetop does or some of the actual true ciders do, but it is still fairly good. It has a little bit of carbonation because I went ahead and capped it off and let it sit. This is one of the ones that set out for a week. After a week, it actually mellowed and has a much better flavor. So it's a good drinking wine. Then, thought I would show you part of my doing the coffee liqueur. I try to make sure that it's shaken quite nicely so that in the bottom of the jar there are no grounds stuck to the bottom and there is no real honey. That little spot in the center might be some honey, but most of the honey got shaken off. The first few days, I see more of the sugars and stuff on the bottom, and I have to really get them shook up better. Here's my two honey gingers that were nice and cloudy last night. They've already started to fall quite a bit. I'm not seeing a whole lot of bubbles out of them, but I'm going to let them sit for a little bit longer and see where they go to. They may go in the fridge to cold crash tomorrow. I'll just have to wait and see, because as you can see here, I've focused on them for several seconds and no bubbles at all. So they may be bubbled out and are ready to cold crash. But that's more or less what my rounds of checking on my stuff at night does, is I go through, check my airlocks, make sure that they're all have liquid in them, and see how well they're bubbling, and to see how clear the liquids have become. These will probably be the next two that I rack. They're starting to clear up quite nicely. Let's see, what type of sugar was this? Moscow something, the really dark brown sugar that I used. That may be cleared as much as it's going to do, because I've found some of the brown sugars are a very dark color. It hasn't been bubbling that much, so I'd say these definitely, by the end of the week, I will have racked them. But it's just a lot of watching and seeing where everything's at and trying to tell what's still going on. Whereas you can see with like my pomegranate cider there, it has some bubbles. Both of my meads right there have some decent bubbles. My apple wine here hasn't been bubbling as much, but usually if I focus on it for a little bit, I can see a bubble. My strawberry wine has had the last bit of honey added to it. I probably want to start or rack it to a bottle and cap it soon, or rack it to or bottle in an actual individual bottles. But I do think there's a little bit of sediment and yeast at the bottom, so I may end up putting it in the fridge to let it cold crash before I actually bottle it. But that's really what my evening of checking on my ciders is just taking a look at everything, and the few things that need shaked or stirred, I try to get them shaken and stirred so they can continue on down the road. Alright, so I decided to get ambitious tonight and do a few more things. First off, I decided to go ahead and cap one of the ginger honey, or the honey gingers that I have, and the other ginger honey, it still has the aerator on it because I put another pound of honey into it, or my normal way of taking a cup of the cider, warming it up, and then filling it to the 2-cup mark on the measuring cup to get it's actually much more than a cup, and I figure with my honey buckets, it's about a pound of honey that I put into there. So I'm making a sweet honey ginger this time along with the honey ginger. And then I decided, I had the 2-gallon bucket sitting down here. I was going to take some of the Member Marks juice and turn it into a brown apple. So this is it getting started. I have not got the yeast in it, but it does have 2 teaspoons of yeast nutrient and a half a teaspoon of pectic enzyme. And then, as you can see here, let me see if I can get my light to come on. Let me come back in a second. Alright, now I have my light on. Let's see if I can get this to focus. So, I'm not sure which one I'm looking at. It looks like I'm about a little over a 0.6. No, a 0.8 on whichever one this is for beer. Let's turn it a little and see what I get. It looks like based on that, I should be, once this is fermented out, it could be as much as a 10% alcohol. About an 8 to 9 is what I think most of mine have come out as. So we'll have to see what it ends up coming out as. I will try to measure it again once I take the lid off. But since this is a bucket, I am using an S airlock because I won't be able to see it as much, and I found the S locks are much easier to see whether they're still bubbling or doing anything in there, or whether there's any type of issues. So we'll see where it goes from there. But I thought I'd give you a little update of the last minute things I decided to do tonight. Right. One last thing, I am using an SO4 yeast. It has now been stirred in fairly well. So I have brown sugar, or 2 gallons, or 2 cups of brown sugar, done the similar way. I had a 4-cup measuring cup, 2 cups of warmed apple juice in it, and then I filled it up to the 4-cup mark with brown sugar. I put in my 2 teaspoons of the yeast nutrient, a half a teaspoon of pectin enzyme, and then a full packet of SO4, and I will get this covered up and we'll let it start bubbling away. Alright, I don't seem to be able to stop with one more thing tonight, but I thought I'd include this in the video since I did get it on the jug, or on the bucket. Current temperature in here is 66 degrees. So I marked the bucket as being B, SO4, 66 degrees, and starting gravity was 1080. At least I think it was about that. So we'll see from there and see what the ending gravity is, as when I think that it stopped bubbling enough to check it. Alright, bye.